want to do a podcast? We make a darn good team. It always goes without a hitch. Let's head to Twitch and go start up the stream. Do you want to do a podcast? It's the Nerd Glasses Podcast. Let's start now. Hi everyone and welcome to the Nerd Glasses Podcast. Come?
All right, I'll do my own bits myself.
Oh wait, no silence.
We're doing it. Get off the road.
Hey Dave,
Hey, Boater.
have you been keeping up on the latest with the Tetris movie?
No, I unfortunately got myself in a little bit of a conundrum with that L block piece, but what's been going on with that?
Well, unfortunately, it's still stuck in the script stage. Whenever they write a line, it disappears.
Oh, no.
I'm sure they'll get past it eventually. It's bound to be a blockbuster. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Nerd Glasses Podcast. I'm Boater.
I'm Dave, man.
And I'm realizing that the screen on the camera isn't flipped around, and it's throwing me off my game, but it's fine. When I shut up, which will be eventually, I'll get up and turn that around. In the meantime, hi Dave, how's it going?
Doing wonderful. Just social mediaing some stuff.
Oh boy, you got to be careful about what you have on social media. We'll get to that later.
Yes, that's there's a tease for the theme of a bunch of our stories is if you say it on the internet, people will hear it.
When it's on the internet, it exists forever.
The WWE adage was then, now, forever. That can also be for things you put on Reddit.
Yeah. But before we get to there, let's get through some of our usual features, and we're going to start with a banned by Twitch. There is going... I'm trying to figure out how to word a content warning on this. I will simply understate as much as possible. Look into it at your own. Anyway, Raul Zito, who is a Brazilian streamer, he was banned this last week, but he was actually arrested back July 27th.
Oh.
The arrest was for, and I cannot emphasize how much I am understating this, sex crimes against children.
Oh.
Understating. It's kind of like, why didn't Twitch ban immediately? Because that was big news. Or, like, why did they bother going through the formality of banning it all? Why wait 3 weeks and then be like, oh, by the way, just in case he decides to stream from prison? I don't know.
You know, that's against the plots because, you know, the rooms have a toilet in them, so...
Yeah, and considering the nature of his offenses, they're probably not going to be safe for Twitch things happening to him. So that's
you get what you deserve, pal.
That's who was banned by Twitch. He also, so I don't want to cast aspersions on those with very fun hair, whatever. He has bright pink hair, bright blue beard, and I'm like, that's not going to do for you well in your new environment. I have no problem against people with colored hair. Generally, it's fun and lovely, and I every now and then wonder if I could pull it off. Unfortunately, I probably shouldn't with my current day job, but like... Also, it doesn't necessarily translate into all environments, so have fun. Your other decisions have been more impactful as to where you're going to end up. So now that we've looked at who was belatedly banned this past week, Dave, what have we got coming out the next week?
Well, I am very excited to talk about two of the games that are coming out in the next week. Going to switch my phone to chat only. So that I can have chat up and switch tabs away. The first one is coming out
that chair
in
almost
2 days.
ran away from me.
It's a game called 12 Minutes.
Was it 2 days or 12 minutes, Dave?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a game called 12 Minutes. It is featuring an all-star voice cast with James McAvoy.
Oh my God!
Daisy
Smash
Ridley.
Mouth is voicing it.
Who?
You said all-star voice cast.
Oh, okay.
Get the game on. I'm sorry. Continue.
James McAvoy, Daisy Ridley, and Willem Dafoe
Wow.
are the 3 characters that you will be seeing in the game itself. But the idea of the game is you are replaying a cinematic top-down view of a husband and wife replaying this 12-minute segment. Where if you watch the trailer, it kind of tells you what happens within those 12 minutes. But as you replay it, a la some games with time-based mechanics, you can change how those things go. You should tune in for Citadel next, where Boder's doing something with time. But I'm looking forward to it. If you have a Series S or an X or Xbox One or a Windows-enabled computer, you are able to get this game, and I will be one of the people looking at it indefinitely. It's a nod to Alfred Hitchcock, Stanley Kubrick, and David Fincher in the style and presentation. And
Yeah, like looking at the screenshots and even especially that that poster art
oh yeah,
is absolute like classic Hitchcock kind of look.
yes, which is awesome. A little less artsy, little less fartsy, but still cinematic in its own style. Later,
But still
this
close
week,
to our heartsies.
Later this week, a game that I have streamed on the network here will be getting a director's cut, literally and figuratively, as you will be able to play Ghost of Tsushima on the PlayStation 5 and a extended version for the PlayStation 4. They're adding a whole nother island for exploration, storyline, and things like that, and then a full Japanese lip sync, haptic feedback for the PlayStation 5 controller, adaptive trigger support.
Nice.
And then improving load times because, my God, Bodo, my God, did I feel like I was watching a film when... That's coming out August 20th for both of the current generation PlayStation systems.
So it's interesting that that's referred to as a director's cut. Like studios and publishers now will just say director's cut when they really mean like extended cut or something like that. Kojima has specifically said like the Death Stranding director's cut isn't a director's cut. Everything that he wanted in the game was in the game. It's just the studio was adding in more stuff to cash in on the big dollars. You know.
It's interesting that that's the buzzword.
Yeah, like that
picked.
is it. Director's cut is it shared kind of the spotlight a couple of decades ago, like with DVD coming out. A lot of things were like director's cut. Extended cut was also used kind of often. Extended cut has sometimes been used for games, even though that would be the more honest version. We're still going with like director's cut when, like, let's be honest, the game director either got everything they wanted in the game, a la Kojima and Death Stranding, or they didn't because the publisher was messing around with it, and there's no way the publisher is going to let go of that creative freedom for an actual director's cut. They're just going to throw in some more deleted scenes.
Absolutely. What do you think will be, in chat, you guys, please feel free to jump in on this. What's going to be the next term? We used to have extended cut. Now we have director's cut. What do you think is going to be the new buzzword they might use? More. The more cut. And it'll just be...
No, just more.
Like... So they're gonna Brondo it, just big purple. I pick a picture, big purple letters, just more.
Yeah, coming out next year. The Outer Worlds, more.
But wait, there's more.
It would make grammatical sense to put the word more beforehand, but that's not marketing.
So that's the games that are coming out in the next 7 days. Next Tuesday, I will be very excited because there's a game coming out on that date that I will be will have played before coming here for Nerd Glasses. So I'll have a personal breakdown on it. But lots of stories to
Dave,
get to
I've
today.
been having personal breakdowns on the channel since we started.
No more of those.
Okay, so before we get into like news and stuff, last week when we were in the store, I picked up Horizon Zero Dawn,
Nice.
which is the favorite game of one of our regulars, more like Rigor Mortis, and she's interested in watching me play it brunch with Boater. Eventually, I'll get to that. But I'm like, I still have my original Xbox sitting on top of my Xbox One because I was recording Metal Arms Glitch in the system, and I might have talked to you a little bit about my trials and tribulations with that game. Anyone who's watched it come out on my YouTube channel can see where I was in the middle of combat and was given a checkpoint and then immediately was knocked into toxic sludge where I immediately died, then reloaded from the checkpoint and knocked into the sludge,
Yep.
whatever.
That was
The past week, I've been like, all right, I want to be able to pack up my Xbox so that I can, bring down the PS4 to play that game whenever I'm going to do a stream of that. Just quickly bring it down, set it up, and then bring it back upstairs.
yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I'm going to keep working on this game. And I'm like, how many levels does it have? I bring up the IGN walkthrough or something. It's like, okay, that doesn't look too bad. I can maybe finish that. And I start to get through. I get close to that. But then I realized that the IGN walkthrough listed about a dozen levels and then had an ad and then had a dozen more levels. No, sorry, it was more like 24, an ad and then 24. I'm halfway done with the game and I'm... Talk about having a personal breakdown. At least half of the episodes that I'm doing, Demon Dragon can attest to. He used a lot of bad words over the weekend when recording. Yes, she can attest to the trauma that game is causing me. I'm just like, I want to get it all recorded and all in the can. I've recorded maybe 17 episodes and I'm only halfway through the game.
We really should, because our pets are so part of our lives. We really should make a cutaway gag in the future for like. And what did you think of this game, sir? And just have Ronan kind of being like, "Ooh."
I shouldn't do that too much. Ronan's probably watching right now.
Hi, Ronan. Hakatusha. Savannah's not watching. I can tell you that. She already
Two
told me
wolves.
expressly.
One says don't howl. One says do it now. Okay. Let's move on. Let's talk about some of the stuff that's happened. We've got a lot of things that we can talk about. A lot of follow-ups on previous topics. There's a lot of places we can go. So I'm gonna start with a new one.
Perfect.
Have you heard of the game Boyfriend Dungeon?
No.
It's one that keeps like popping up on my radar. A lot of people saying it's fun, whatever. It is a dating sim where the people that you are dating are all like can turn into weapons that you bring on a dungeon crawl. And it looks interesting. It does deal with themes that are potentially upsetting. It deals with things like basically, if you can think of toxic traits in a relationship, it deals with those themes.
Okay.
Like there's an antagonist. And a lot of people have said to the developer, like, your content wording is not enough. And the developer said, you know what, you're right. We are going to issue an update on Steam in the next week or so. We're going to update the content warning, get a little more specific because there is a line to tread there. You don't want to give away plot points, but you do want to make sure that you're potentially warned.
Yeah. To oversimplify it for folks out there who are still thinking like, well, what does that mean? Well, there's a difference between saying mild violence as compared to, say, a platformer like Mario, and extreme violence as in Mortal Kombat, where someone is literally disemboweling somebody. And if you put in mild violence and then you watch someone get disemboweled, you begin to worry. What could be extreme violence? And so
like if you say like alcohol references, but it's actually downing shot after shot after shot after shot, and getting abusive because you're drunk.
Alcohol references is different than alcohol use.
And so I don't know if it's rated by the ESRB, but those content ratings from the ESRB are different than, say, trigger warnings.
Yes.
And again, it's a line to walk because at this point it's been out for a few years, so I'm going to use Doki Doki Literature Club as an example.
Yeah.
It seems like a perfectly innocent dating game with cute anime girls, whatever, but it has content warnings does have graphic, disturbing imagery and stuff like that. There's suicide in the game. And it uses it to tell its story. But that is a story that they wanted to tell. What some people are saying with Boyfriend Dungeon, and it's a vast minority. I'm going to say that it's there, but it's not like a lot of people are saying this. People are saying, no, those parts of the game should be taken out because they like these mechanics, but not that aspect. And
You're the title of the game is Boyfriend Dungeon. So you have a general idea of what dressing you're dealing with in
right,
regards
but people
to.
want to date someone that turns into a sword. They don't want to deal with an antagonist that has potentially molested them in the past or something. I don't know. I do know that the voice actor of said antagonist has been catching a lot of harassment on Twitter, and
Well, yeah,
he had to
because-
go and be like, I am not my character. These characters aren't always fully formed when we voice them, but I read the lines that I had, and I could tell that he was the worst of all the fuckboy stereotypes, so that's how I played him. But I am not him.
That's the unfortunate reality of especially nowadays when people feel empowered to voice their opinions, but then don't do it productively.
Mm-hmm.
They just
That's-
kind of
yeah.
haphazardly swing wild at everybody and everything, instead of saying, I don't like this. I don't like what they said. I don't like what they're doing. And instead of aiming it and contacting the company, because companies have these contact us boards for a reason.
Yep. Or
They-
at least use the Steam review page to be like, yeah, I played this and I was caught completely off guard. The content warning was not enough. Whatever. I really, I felt that this character went too far or whatever. You can do that in reviews by all means, but keep it to that kind of thing. It's the with power comes responsibility. When you're empowered to have your voice out there, you are also responsible for not being a douchebag, not harmfully impacting the mental health of the voice actor who was getting harassed. Come on. So that is the latest going on with Boyfriend Dungeon. That's a game that, again, has kept popping up on my radar. I do intend to play it, but depending on the nature of the updated content warning, I may not do it on stream. We'll see. What you got?
So, our friends at Typhoon Studios, who created the game Journey to the Savage Planet, streamed it here on Insane Games TV, streamed it on my own channel, had a great time with it, loved it.
Mhm.
It got purchased out by Google.
Okay.
And they were the company that were then made to make Google Stadia games.
Okay,
just for
yeah,
Google
yeah.
Stadia. Well, as we talked about in many times, and by the way, nope, Google Stadia is still alive. We're still counting, but
Yep.
they then let Typhoon Studios go because they decided they weren't going to make in-house games for the Stadia.
Yep.
75% of the original Typhoon Studios teams have come together to make Raccoon Logic, a new studio.
Oh, so they didn't grant Typhoon Studios their autonomy again. They still had, that and the IP rights from the studio, but they were like, "You people in here, bye-bye."
Yeah, they let because it
okay.
wasn't they bought Typhoon Studios and they basically became the Stadia team.
Yeah.
And they cut the Stadia team, and
So the result is that 75% of the people who were Typhoon Studios were let go. Okay.
Yes. So, interestingly enough, on that same topic, Google allowed and released the rights and the IP for Journey to the Savage Planet back to them.
Oh, cool.
They also
so back to the new studio that they're
Yes.
creating? Oh, that's awesome.
And they also let them keep the work they were doing on unreleased titles and things for Google Stadia. They kept it.
Huh.
It's theirs to then potentially pursue, or if assets were created, they can use those in future things.
So we are not going to keep funding this game creation, but if you want to continue working on that game as your team, go ahead. Here's all the legal rights for you to be able to do that.
Yep.
Maybe they said in that Stadia gets first bite.
Maybe
who knows?
not. But it basically
but
the executive producer and the co-founder, Reed Schneider, said, Google also allowed them to keep what they were doing prior to the closure.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
This
you really
also
don't see
going
that
along.
much.
Yes, yeah, Google. Nice
Yeah.
job.
Good job, Google.
You get
We
2
don't
thumbs up
always-
from some nerds in New York.
We don't always say that at this point, but good job, Google.
Interestingly enough, which does harken back to, and I apologies because we're gonna dig into an old story, but it's cool that Journey to the Savage Planet, a game that I personally greatly enjoy, is going to be able to be back in the hands of the people that made it and want to continue to evolve it, upgrade it, and potentially make Journey to the Savage Planet 2, which the ending of it led into. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of what happened to StarCraft Ghost. Do you remember? So basically, in the long history of Blizzard.
Oh, that's why I was reminded of StarCraft Ghost recently. Let me dovetail off, and then we'll get back to Ghost. So I'm talking about Metal Arms Glitch in the System, published by Vivendi. I'm trying to think who the developer was. The developer, instead of working on the sequel to Metal Arms Glitch in the System, was bought by Blizzard and was tasked with the development of StarCraft Ghost. Continue.
So, I pre-ordered StarCraft Ghost in the late 90s. And
there was a long window that you could have pre-ordered StarCraft Ghost.
And was told, it's coming, it's in development. You'd hear in the magazines, teams are working on this and the other. Well,
there was a really good feature in like a 2002 issue of official Xbox magazine on StarCraft Ghost.
So, unfortunately, when companies let people go, there are certain rights that the company has and certain rights that the individual employee has. And the person who did all of the art and was in charge of the art for the game, textures, the designs, and just the basic art for the designs and everything, Blizzard had decided that they were not going to keep their services past the game. And once, this date hits, they called them in. They said, on this particular Friday, we're going to let you go. The game's almost finished. We're doing this and that and the other. And the art director, being very intelligent, said, so you're letting me go on this date, right? And Blizzard confirmed, yes, let's just say it's the 26th.
Yep.
Well, the art assets didn't officially trade hands and become property of Blizzard until the 31st. So on the 26th, when he packed his desk, he took all of his artwork and all of his possessions and left with a good chunk of the game, which they then said, well, game's canceled.
That seems very urban legend-y. I can't believe that it was like I personally.
Well, I'm glad you're going to take the time to attack my story here.
Yeah,
on air.
no, like I'm not gonna. I have the Wikipedia page. I'll look into that on my own time. Doubt.
Sure.
But I won't bring receipts right now.
That's
a fun story.
That's the reasoning that was given to me by many people, and what I had read over the years, and then stopped looking at because the game died, and as much as I wanted it, we're never gonna get it.
Let's see. You mentioned. Oh bugger! We were talking about like who owns the legal rights to this and whatever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to my big topic that I brought to the table. Indie game developer Jack Friend took to Twitter this past week, talking about a one-sided contract that he was offered to help finance his game Scrabdackle. Scrabdackle was financed on Kickstarter. It met its goal, and basically it's him working on it solo. It's funded for him to work on it for about like 9 months or so to try to get that to come out.
Yeah.
The publisher, which he left unnamed, offered him $500,000 Canadian. And that sounds great, but then you realize everything that he would have given up. He would have gotten a revenue share that wouldn't kick in until $250,000 was made, or about 24,000 copies were sold.
Okay.
Before that, he wouldn't get any money.
Yeah.
Said payments could be made up to 3 months after the end of the next quarter, and then there was another thing for it could be delayed another 3 months just because. there was no requirement for financial transparency on the publisher's side. If he wanted to be like, yo, how many copies have sold? How much money do you actually owe me? He would have had to pay for an audit that no matter the results, whether they were honestly reported or found to be dishonest,
Yeah.
he would have still had to pay for the audit. There was no financial, there would have been no financial repercussions on the publisher for
Ooh.
having bad bookkeeping. They wouldn't have even had to pay for the audit. It would just be, oh, make sure you pay him what you owe him.
That
The
sucks.
and it gets worse. The publisher could overrule creative decisions and ultimately bring in a third-party developer to continue development at Jake Friend's personal expense. So in other words, yeah,
We're not happy with it, and you're gonna pay for
yeah,
it.
if the publisher
That's-
found him to be in breach of contract, which was so loosely defined as to be frankly hilarious, he would lose rights to the game, have to repay the money received, and then keep paying the publishers all expenses for someone else to complete the game with no limit set for the amount to be spent.
Yeah.
So this was like a 24 tweet thread that he posted, and a lot of people are like guessing. A lot of other indie developers are like, oh, I bet that was such and such. I bet that was such and such. Jonathan Blow, who's really well known for Flow, The Witness. I think he did the desert one with the scarf, Journey. I think that was him. I could be wrong. He was like, "Oh, I definitely know who it is," and Jake was like, "He's probably wrong because in talking to a bunch of people, like that's everyone." His quote was, "My close indie dev friends discuss what we're able to of contracts frequently, and the only thing surprising to them about mine is that it hit all of the typical red flags instead of just most of them."
It rang every single bell.
Yeah, and so like it's it's the dream of a small developer to be offered a bunch of money to complete your passion project. But when it's this one-sided, it's the kind of thing that like an individual developer probably hasn't bless you, probably hasn't taken a business class. They don't know to what extent they can try to change the contract and send it back while still appearing to be arguing in good faith.
Yeah.
Lawyers can be expensive if you want to have a lawyer look it over, who's versed in this kind of thing to look it over and try to get what's best for you. Like it's a really tricky thing. I talked with some of my friends when we were developing a film, and we were like, "Oh yeah, this IP that we've got here that we've done a couple of films in, you know, at what point would it be okay just like selling it? Like if someone just buys it and then they want to do it and we're not involved, okay, well there's a dollar amount for that. But that's, just a no strings attached. You give me money, here, take everything.
Yeah.
Then there's like, all right, are you going to pay me to do it on my terms? Or are you going to keep attaching stipulations? And just the idea of them being like, we don't like what you're doing. That's a breach of contract. So we're going to take that $500,000 back from you. Oh, I'm sorry you don't have it and you actually spent that on development and hiring people to do that for you, but we're going to take that back from you. We're going to bring in this team to do it instead and develop it in-house, but you're paying all their wages too on top of that. Like, that is absolutely mind-blowing to me.
That sounds like the people didn't want it, but just if they could get it for those, they'd take it.
Well, that's like generally standard, and apparently, and a lot of times the reps are like, "Yeah, this is what it is." A lot of people sign this, just very predatory like that.
Everybody gets the undercoating on their cars. Don't worry about it.
Right? Hope my employer doesn't see that comment. I don't care. Hi, I work at a car dealership. I mean, whatever.
That's insane, says Demon Dragon. Why even offer a contract? Exactly.
Because, I mean, a lot of this probably wouldn't come to pass, but, like, when they see this game that it's like, we can throw some money at it, and then the thing is, with every contract, this is something the publisher is offering that protects them and has no protections for the developer. The developer is able to counter with offers that would protect them. But again, because it's being offered from a position of power and money, it is really stacked in the publisher's thing. Like, honestly, what would probably happen would be, here's $500,000. Oh, there was no thing saying how much they would spend on marketing. Here's $500,000.
How much he would pay.
And
for
then we're
marketing.
going to spend some on marketing. And if we make enough, then maybe you'll get some money out of it. Who knows?
Oh my god.
I mean, he specifically didn't name the publisher because he didn't want to say this was publisher A and then publishers B, C, and D being like, oh, that's awful. We would never do that. Only to have a bunch of people tearing him down and being like, excuse me?
Well,
I can't say you do that because I have NDAs, but...
Yeah, reading, specifying what those contracts say about what you are allowed to say and do. Make sure you know that ahead of time because there's penalties for not knowing your NDAs.
Yeah, and actually that's a good next topic because I know we've got that. But yeah, this is again, this was Jack's friend, all one word on Twitter. And really, like, if you get the chance, kind of read through it because Jake friend, get the chance to read through it. Because it's indie publishing indie a lot of stuff is a mess.
Yeah.
And again, there is a power imbalance between one guy who kickstarted a thing and the publishers who have $500,000 to throw around like that. Speaking of NDAs,
if you are lucky enough to be contacted by an entertainment group, a game developer, a publisher, a book writer, anyone in the industry who works in an art or form where you don't want everything getting leaked out up front, you typically sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. Well, there are some folks who got an early tech preview of Battlefield 2042, didn't seem to really care or read their NDAs, and posted clips, videos, screenshots, which are specifically mentioned in it, and many other things not to then do on your own personal use.
yeah, I've been in a couple of beta tests where I make sure to read really closely
Yes.
what I can and cannot talk about. Sometimes when it's a beta, they'll be like, yes, please go ahead and stream this.
Yes.
Other times it'll be like, no, do not do this, do not talk about whatever. This is
Yeah.
an early beta that is still bugging. We don't want people to see it in its current state. Make sure you know.
Exactly. And EA has gone through and pulled the footage of the tech preview, and they have threatened, not executed on, so a smorgasbord of punishments that include getting DNCA takedowns against your personal channels if you're on YouTube or Twitch or other ones. They have threatened the loss of future access to early looks and this and that and the other. There's always somebody else they can bring in to look at this exact thing and go, ooh, just like you did.
Yeah. Yep.
But they're specifically for Battlefield 2042, specifying that your personal accounts may be banned from the game for a calendar year, up to
Wow.
a calendar year moving forward, if the people who are posting these things and doing these things don't reel it in and quick.
So DAM314 lets leak something about Battlefield, and then DAM314 doesn't get to play Battlefield for a year, even after the full game is released.
Oh no, because that's what people want to tune in to watch me play.
I'm using an example.
The first year I did MLB The Show and I got early access to it. That's all one of the people like, are you sure you can stream this? I was like, yes, I read
made
what
sure.
it says.
Yeah, I made sure I could.
It specifically has the Twitch logo in the "Hey, share us on."
Yeah,
for this.
Like a lot of games. So like games that are in early access is generally, yeah, whatever, go for it. like Power Washing Simulator isn't a public early access kind of thing, but they specifically state on their site, yes, please stream it, because they know that's how they're getting their publicity. Others that I've been in a couple of closed betas where it's actually saying, do not discuss outside of, the forums where we're doing bug reporting and all that until X date
Yeah.
or until release date or release date plus 1 month or something like that.
Hey.
Some NDAs say ever. Um, I when I was at Galaxy's Edge, I got a Sabak deck, which is the game that they play in solo. And I follow a sleight of hand magician, does a lot with cards, who was the dealer during the main Sabak scene in that movie, but he couldn't say anything about it. His NDA said forever. He was like, "Oh my God, I was in Star Wars and I can tell nobody." But then someone else who was involved with it mentioned him by name, which was enough to break him out of the NDA. That like basically until we acknowledge your part in this, you can't do anything.
Yeah, which makes sense on some degrees because this actually does transition to another story we're talking about, but especially when you start seeing people's faces associated with products,
Mhm.
it starts to skew your image of what the product could be
Yeah.
or what it could have. Oh, you have a person that's famous for doing card tricks and this and that and the other. Well, how does that fit into and then you're off to the races.
Yeah, and then I mean, I could see it working for the particular movie where they're like, when there's sleight of hand. Spoiler alert: there's sleight of hand in the movie and all that. But yeah, like always, an NDA is a contract. Whenever you sign any contract, make sure you know what's in it. Whether it's something that is going to be signing away your rights to your project and your money and everything like that, or if it's going to be just the ability to talk about what you're working on.
Yeah.
Know what you're signing.
Know what you're signing, and then know if you sign an NDA, people intend for that to be executed.
Yep.
Don't test it. But speaking of public perception and all the things associated with it, Masahiro Sakurai, the gentleman, the face of Super Smash Brothers,
Oh, yep.
IRL, the person who announces all the new characters and do these things, was on a program. Now, follow me down this rabbit hole, Boater. He appeared on a program that's called Harada's Bar, which is a show hosted by the Tekken designer Katsuhiro Harada.
Okay.
The gentleman is particularly gruff, very blunt, and so the two of them were talking about being video game designers, being in the fighting game industry, all these things. And Sakurai went out of his way to talk about the fact that he doesn't like that he's a meme.
Mm-hmm.
Pal, have you not been on the internet? Because that's not how you do that.
I mean, I kind of understand in that, like, the meme that he's known for isn't something he technically said.
Well, yes. The larger picture is, and the picked up his thing is, he said he didn't like being a meme. The specificity of it goes into the fact that he doesn't want his work and legacy to be defined by other people's words on his face. Specifically, the meme that references him saying, "Don't ask me for anything else."
Yeah.
He has never said that. And as somebody that cries every time Waluigi is not announced as a character, we post that meme. We do. So, Katsuhiro said, like, you should like make a point about this and talk about what it is so that people know why you don't like it. And he said, he goes, I don't like that I'm, I represent a company and I'm doing these things, but other people's words are being put in my mouth. And it was talking about how in the past, these public perceptions and things have changed because they start to then 5 years, 10 years down the road, misattribute, oh, they said that because they don't know anymore and they're not involved with the projects. But Sakurai once again making headlines because he's going to announce Waluigi any day now. He's going to be the last character.
Any day. And then no one asks him for anything else. Let's do a really quick roundup with follow-ups on previous stories. I've
Sure.
got a lot. First off, ROM Universe, which lost the court fight against Nintendo.
The
Nintendo said, "Stop selling access to copies of our games." Matthew Storman, the owner of ROM Universe, couldn't even make $50 a month payments, and now Nintendo has gotten the court to order the guy to, quote, permanently destroy all unauthorized Nintendo games or other unauthorized copies of Nintendo's intellectual property, including movies, books, and music. He had until today to destroy stuff, and has until the 20th to file a declaration to the court verifying his compliance. Like, dude, you made bank off of their stuff, and there's still people, bad faith arguments saying, but game preservation. No, he was making money off their shit. Surely he could afford the 50 a month, but basically the worry is that he's going to start selling that stuff again.
Absolutely.
Let's see. On last week, we talked about Gigabyte's defective power supplies. They said that they will replace defective power supplies, but they cast shade at the testing that brought the faults to light, saying, "Oh, well, some of the things that they did with how they tested it, and also we've changed them along the way," which is kind of admitting that they were shitty in the first place. And they ignored like half of the evidence that was brought up in the main video investigating it, and just conveniently ignored it because it didn't fit their thing. But they're going to replace defective PSUs. Go Gigabyte.
So the little guy wins in this situation.
I mean, at least get them to acknowledge, but it'd be nice if they, couldn't pull it off with a "I'm sorry you feel that way." You mentioned this one at least. Kay, formerly of FaZe Clan, apologized for the Save the Kids crypto scam in a video after about a month. He lays blame at his partner's feet, saying that he himself was ignorant on the details of how cryptocurrency really works. This, of course, is despite his extensive history of exactly this kind of thing, of hyping up some financial thing, crypto or otherwise, and then bailing out of it, making his money, leaving everyone else to wither on the vine. He's done this so many times.
We talked about a story specifically involving these two gentlemen with the CS:GO skins.
Oh, that's right. That was the same. Yeah, I had forgotten that was the same people.
It is the same people. I was looking at that and I was like, huh, we talked about that a couple of years ago.
He says he'll try to pay back those who lost money, but the plan to do so is so flimsy as to be non-existent. Like, oh yes, any money that I have left over from Save the Kids, as well as ad revenue off of this, just send me an email here and I'll get you your money back. There's no way to proof that. That's a way to get your friends rich because they emailed you first, and now, oops, I don't have any more money to give away. That's money laundering. Have fun.
I enjoy that after a month of silence on the part of Key and Sam Pepper, Key's first words are, "Well, he did all of it."
Yeah.
Bro. Grow up. You're a part of the same scheme. Just... The rest of the video was fine. Acknowledging, should have done better work, shouldn't have done this, all would have been great, except for the whole, meh, it wasn't, the word
and also ignoring the fact that he's done this a lot before.
No profit was made except for Sam. He made the money. Okay, great, exactly. Oh, God.
Okay. Follow-ups. Let's see who got laid off this past week from big publishers who are under the microscope. From Blizzard, Louis Barriga, the Diablo 4 director, Jesse McCree, lead designer, and Jonathan LeCraft, a World of Warcraft designer, let go from Blizzard. No reasons were given, although at least in Barriga's case, definitely photographic evidence of him in the Cosby suite that was a problem at Comic-Con or whatever that was. The Overwatch casters have avoided calling McCree the character by name during Overwatch games that they're calling.
Yes.
And instead just been calling him the Cowboy.
Oh no. I get it.
I get it.
I mean,
it's the kind of thing that, like, if they keep that name, it needs to be in a way that, like, I didn't know that the character was named after a developer, but, like, that's the problem with naming things after people, and like we've talked at length about one of the founders of Justin TV and like his impact on it and stuff that's named after him and stuff like that. When PogChamp was very much using a person's face, and then oops, they milkshake ducked, and we got to figure out something else. And here, well, they got to figure out a name, or oh, the character's name is actually whatever his first name is, nickname McCree, and they transition to using nickname as the character's name and not just the cowboy.
There's a couple things right off the top of my head. I've someone that played that character a lot. They could do that wouldn't hurt. But man, do you have a pickle to
Yeah,
solve.
and like that's not an official rename of the character or anything like that. That's just like the casters tacitly talking around it.
Well, yeah, because you don't want to. The company is probably telling them, "Hey, remember when all those people mouthed off on that other broadcast about supporting this or that or the other? Don't
Yeah.
do that."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I did write down one.
Okay.
That respawn won't be possible for Daniel Klein, the lead developer of Apex, as posts from 2007 resurfaced where the posts themselves use language inappropriate for anyone regarding gendered and
the
and race.
context is sexist and racist, and 200% was wrong. We're going to talk about some things here, but let's get that out of the way. The things that he said 14 years ago, as a 27-year-old, very wrong, and he should have known better.
Daniel Klein released a series of tweets talking about his release from the company, how he will no longer be working for Respawn, and stating now, going forward, I'm not that person that I was, and I've grown from what it was. I didn't really like the turning around and trying to say, like, oh, well, it was for shock value. Those don't express my. It's like,
Yeah, I said that to get a reaction.
Listen,
well,
pal,
now you've
you can
gotten your
shout
reaction.
fire in a crowded theater all you want. The action is out there, and you said what you said.
Yep.
You're going to adversely affect people with your words and your actions, something both Boder and I know about and something a lot of people out there know about. You can't put it back in the box.
Mm-hmm.
Once you say and do, it is what it is, and the responses are going to be what they're going to be based upon your actions and words. However, interesting that Respawn just can't, like up front, just booted from the company based upon egregious wording and inappropriate things for someone on an executive level to be saying. But at what age on these things is there not a
statute of limitations?
Well, a statute of limitations, and also just like everyone in their lifetime has said stupid things in a public way. The reality is, though, nowadays there's hard copy of it.
Mm-hmm.
You tweet it, you Facebook it, you MySpace it. I mean, if you kept that, and there are these things that it's interesting that he wasn't then just able to. The company's policies, I would love to have a look at what they are to see that immediate dismissal, as opposed to at an executive level, which his position is as a lead developer.
I mean, if it was Activision Blizzard, he would have been put on leave, and they would have looked into it sternly.
They would have very intently gone to circle filing, as they say, and filed it right in there.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, he professes that he has grown personally, and I will take that with a grain of salt. I would want to know what his peers in game development think of him along those lines. Is he a different person than the person that made those statements 14 years ago? And if so, like, it's the same thing when James Gunn was fired from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 as director. Disney let him go because a lot of people brought up things that he had said previously in bad faith, specifically to make this happen. And the speculation is that that's what happened here. Klein is someone who is a public face of Apex Legends, a game like most games, with a toxic portion of a fan base. And if they're like, well, we don't like this guy, what if someone has this in their blackmail bank? Let's put it to work. So it's interesting to talk about and compare and contrast while we're talking about the ongoing Activision Blizzard stuff, because a lot of that is stuff that happened 8-10 years ago. But the difference is that the lawsuits have been alleging that yes, that was big stuff then, but it's still an ongoing problem now. And what I would want to know is if Klein's comments then reflect anything that's ongoing now.
Yeah. I would hope that if those views and actions do not reflect current living, breathing being, as opposed to the pictures of past actions and past words,
Uh-huh.
it's not actions. People would be able to say in defense of, or if asked, speak in a positive light of a person, stating yes, they are not these people, or those words do not reflect the current person I currently worked with, and things like that, without fear of further pushback or
Mhm.
or further accusations of covering up for someone and things like that. But
Yeah.
it's a sticky subject and it's a
And it's a
scary
weird
world out there.
time. It's a sticky time for that kind of subject.
It's why here at Nerd Glasses we advise you to cull your social media. Just
Not everything needs to be shared. And definitely go through. Like, this was specifically said screenshots, so he probably had culled, but it was still something that he said, and there was still evidence of it out there. On a somewhat related note, Riot Games, we mentioned a week or two ago, is still under investigation by California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing. Just an update that they say that Riot Games is still delaying the investigation, has been obstruction the whole way through, but that's still a thing that's ongoing. And Dave, I have one more follow-up that's listed here.
Okay.
I have it on my sheet of paper as abandoned app. Ugh, whatever. Let Dave go on about Kojima for another 5 minutes.
Well, Boater, I'm so glad because I need everyone at home to take out your tinfoil hats and place them firmly on your head so that these words cannot be beamed to those bean counters to stop our inevitable boy from his dreams. Last week, we talked about the fact that the PlayStation 5 was going to get an application on it, and it was delayed due to bugs. Well, the application went live, and yours truly opened up the application. It is 5.1 gigabytes.
Mm-hmm.
Contained inside is the same video that we saw at the Game Awards, and that was then distributed on YouTube and other social media sites.
Not interactive, it's just pre-rendered video. Well, maybe in-engine now, but still just video.
But wouldn't that be the way Kojima would do it? Make you think that there's some sort, Boater, some kind of silence from the company?
I don't know if they can read what I'm holding up, but it's important.
What does it say? Let's see. Be careful, Blue Box is a scam.
Yeah, I'll go through Blue Box's timeline when you're done with the tinfoil hat. But by all means, let us keep the tinfoil on for another moment or two.
I will continue to vehemently support the idea that this is absolutely 1010% a Kojima project coming to life, regardless of the fact that Blue Box themselves have said we're not affiliated with Kojima. And the grand look of this whole thing is that I'm going to keep that application installed on my PlayStation 5 because they said that that is where they're going to put further information going forward. And I'm looking greatly forward to it. But, Boater, it seems like you have a tinfoil hat of your own.
This has been.
I know you wouldn't wear something so tacky as a tinfoil hat.
This has been thoroughly fact-checked, but sure, if it helps you, tinfoil hat, reverse it, and put it back on.
Gotta have fun for the podcast, Boater. Can't poo-poo everything.
Back in 2015, Blue Box announced a horror game called Rewind. They delayed
Aha.
the playable teaser for this game because of technical issues.
Huh?
They said it would have VR. Then they canceled VR. Then they canceled the Kickstarter. They said the game development was on halt, and they'll tell us when development continues. Then they said started a new project. Then the development was resumed. The game was never released and the website was deleted. Also in 2015, announced a PC exclusive horror game called The Lost Tape. They said they'll stream gameplay soon. The game never came out, deleted from Indie Database website. Announced a new game called The Whisperer, coming out June 2017. According to this graphic, it says the game never came out. This was independently fact-checked. There is a Let's Play that exists of it. One single Let's Play. Maybe someone got something early access or something, but other than that, like, it doesn't show up in Internet Archive. Mostly, the game either never came out or was swiftly deleted. New multiplayer horror game, Unseen Faces, announced in 2018. The game never came out. 2019, they released a broken mobile app called Tales of the Six Swords, and I don't mean that like the game. Oh, it doesn't. It's kind of the game's kind of janky. No, they said it was a game. It came out. You click the icon, which by the way, used stolen anime character art to make the icon, and the app would start to boot up and then crash. There was no game. There was just an app behind an icon. They said an update was coming to the non-working app. Then the app was removed from the store. 2020, they released a horror game called The Haunting on Steam in early access. It received 100% negative reviews. They removed the option to buy the game. They said a big update is coming very soon. Then they delayed the update. The update was never released. They quit developing and gave the game to Createch Interactive to finish it. Createch Interactive doesn't exist, and by not existing, they didn't finish development either. And that brings us to 2021, where they announced a new horror game called Abandoned. The PS5 real-time app would totally be available August 10th. Oh no, there's technical issues. And we'll see how this one concludes. They've been doing this for years, and I understand the trip that you brought me on about a month ago saying it's a big Kojima false flag, whatever.
Yes.
As much as I want to believe,
Uh-huh.
I want to believe, ding, 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 ding. I don't believe that Kojima has been playing this game since 2015 with this studio, coming out with terrible scraps of, we're going to make a horror game because that's a genre that's easy to get excited and also to make really quick nothings in. What does your thing say?
A little baseball never hurt anyone, because Lord knows that Kojima would mastermind things he would never imagine. And you would think, that's crazy. But the reality is, we know the truth over here at this side of the nerd glasses. We know. And we will feel vindication.
It's not a format that we've used too much, and we don't even have an actual Bendy figure, but that's me playing Bendy's advocate on Blue Box Studios. Ugh.
Well, you know what though? I am glad that you found some more information about it, and that we have more of a concise picture as opposed to just
this exists. How? It must be Kojima. Yeah. I have a joke to close this on that isn't mine, but it's something that came from Twitter. But did you have anything else before we got to that?
To close this topic?
No, just to close out the show.
Oh,
did you have any other topics you really wanted to hit before we call it tonight?
Tomorrow in Pokemon Unite, the support class character Blissey will be added. You already got Gardevoir. Now you're getting a Chansey evolution. My boy Snorlax is getting nerfed. His move's Heavy Slam Block and his Unite move. Kind of pissed about that. But they are adding an item.
My big sleepy boy.
For those of you who play Pokemon Unite, they're adding an item you can add called the eject button that you can use it, and it will put distance between yourself and the other team's Pokemon. And if you've played games like Pokemon Unite, games like League of Legends, you know how valuable those 2 extra pixel distance are between you and your opponent.
Yeah.
Stranger Things had a lot of announcements these last couple days, starting with the patch notes that specifically mentioned a fix for Pyramid Head's flat booty. Yep. So,
Some pretty thirsty Pyramid Head fans out there, eh?
Pyramid Head, pancake ass, no more on your Dead by Daylight as of the most recent patch. They also announced that a character from the Hellraiser horror movie franchise, will be joining as one of the creatures, one of the murderers. Pinhead, specifically, the titular character that you think about from Hellraiser.
Yep.
Brutal attacks, by the way, and some really cool animations coming. Also, if you are a fan of Stranger Things in general and think you might want to use some of the Dead by Daylight content, they did say that their license expires on November 17th. Now, don't run out and go get it today, because before the licenses expire for these things, typically the week before, they do half off.
Yes.
So, if you're a big fan of Dead by Daylight, if you're a big fan of Stranger Things, you won't be disappointed paying full price for it. You won't.
Mm-hmm.
But half off is coming, and then they will become legacy items where they won't do anything new with them, but they will upkeep them in patches to make sure that they are still playable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a couple of stories that I will patch for next week. But yeah, tomorrow, update your Pokemon Unites, and keep an eye on Dead by Daylight, as more horrifying creatures are going to be coming out of the ether for you.
For the last topic tonight, just a really quick note that Idris Elba announced something, and he posted a tweet that, among other things, showed a very iconic glove, spiked glove, which, of course, everyone is realizing that he is most likely voicing Knuckles in the movie Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And I want to quote
Oh my god.
Twitter account James Felton. The Twitter account of James Felton here. Hate to be one of those "they ruined my childhood" wankers, but I am not prepared for the amount of people who are soon going to want to fuck Knuckles. Which he then followed up with, "It has come to my attention that a lot of you already wanted to fuck Knuckles the cartoon echidna." Because that's the Sonic fandom, y'all.
Okay. If you're a part of the Sonic fandom, what do you think of Idris Elba?
I mean, I enjoyed the movie, and I'm excited for him to voice Knuckles.
Tread lightly, please. If your like goes over a passing fancy. Oh, man.
Anyway,
internet.
folks, that is going to do it for the Nerd Glasses podcast this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to stay tuned after this, where I will be playing Prince of Persia on the Citadel. We go offline for 5 minutes. There's a 10-minute countdown, and then I'm live. Enough time to get up, make popcorn, take a leak, whatever you got to do. So I hope to see you here for that. And, of course, make sure that you tune in tomorrow for a lot of awesome programs, including, of course, the Weekend Wednesday with my man Dave right here. Make sure you're following us.
Make sure to hit that follow button, ring that bell so you get notified every time we go live. 11 different streamers and a whole host of content. You never know what we're doing next.
Thank you all so much for watching. From all of us here at the Nerd Glasses podcast, I've been Boater.
I've been Dave, man. It's my
And
turn
we'll
to go.
see you next time. Oh, we don't have the thing here.
It's my turn to go run over.
No, that's fine.
Smile and wave, boys. Smile.
Make sure that you're here at 7 o'clock Eastern next week for the Nerd Glasses podcast. Bye, everybody.